All right. Well, I want to introduce my guest, Curtis. Curtis has been a member of ours for, since
2016.
2016, long time.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming and being a guest.
Yeah.
I asked you to come on because I think you have a unique story. And one of the goals of this podcast is to highlight members of the Legends community and what I call the Legends universe now. Since we're engaged in a lot of different things, and it creates interesting relationships and interesting people, and ways for people to cross paths that probably wouldn't have ever done so without some involvement in the gym. And so, just give us a little history about your experience with Legends so far, your experience in martial arts, where you're from, a little bit about you.
So I'm from New Jersey. I came out here in 1999. I'm a second degree black belt in martial arts, Taekwondo. I got my second degree when I was in my 30s. I'm 54, so I got my second degree in my 30s. And I've always had a love for boxing, just watching it, and always wanted to do it. Never found the outlet to actually, or time to actually do it. Just one day I was driving by, I saw the Legend sign, and it took me a week or two to come in here to find out about it, and came in and met your brother, Andrew. He was the first person, and your daughter, Chase. They was the first two people that I met, and I took a class, fell in love with it, and it just took off from there. I think after about a year and a half, Andrew asked me if I wanted to be a coach. I was already kind of helping people in the class because I had a little bit of knowledge of it, and so I went and took a test, became the coach, and then just from there, got into. I had to become. So once you start sparring, you have to register through USA Boxing, and be a member there. And when I did that, I saw that they had a link for coaching tests, certifications, and officials. And for me, I just thought that's like a no-brainer to learn more about the sport. I went in and I took the coach tests, and then after that I took the officials tests and started shadowing at fights. They decided to just go from there.
I love hearing that. It's interesting to me to see where everybody's journey kind of blends over the years. A lot of people get out of what they put into anything, right? Whether it's going to the gym or doing a sport or whatever passion they have, their career, family, you get out of it what you put into it. And what I've noticed about you and your wife is that you guys had put a lot into the gym, you put a lot into the culture of the gym, a lot of discussions about behind closed doors and how our culture was. Your guys' name got brought up all the time just because you embodied the thing that we wanted to create, which was a very welcoming environment. As you know, I'm sure that you grew up in some areas that weren't so friendly and weren't so welcoming, and so did I. And I wanted to be able to take what I've learned in boxing and be able to give that gift to anybody who wants to learn it. And what I noticed about you and your wife, Brittany, is that you both do that. Like you anybody that walks through the door, you guys go out of your way to make them feel welcome. And it made me feel very satisfied when I met you guys that we had started creating something unique that was the mission in the beginning.
Appreciate it.
I think boxing, there's a million good boxing gyms with great boxing coaches. Right. And what I hope that we provide is good culture, and I think that you help create that. So, with that, the USA Boxing thing I find very fascinating because it's an interesting culture, right? Like it's a competitive sport. It's a very, combat sport is competitive. But yet USA Boxing is one of the very few organizations where they sanction, create rules and guidelines and to keep people safe. How do you feel that you've been a part of USA Boxing, and what kind of impact has it had on you now that you're involved? You've seen it from the side of watching and seeing what referees and judges have to do, right? And now you're on the side of being a referee and a judge, and some insight now that you've been on both sides, that you are on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, it all just ties together for me as far as the love of the sport and the understanding of boxing. Coming from a member to a coach to refereeing and judging, it all just it brings it all together for that greater understanding.
I've watched over the years. I've watched fights over the years, and I try to explain to people that haven't been involved. They see it from the camera, right? That this guy clearly won that round, right? But why did that judge or referee give it to the other guy? And I've been able to show a few people. I said, all right, I want you to look at this table, look through those 3 ropes, and from the angle that you see right now, do you have the same perspective if you were looking down on everything and got to see everything clearly? Right. And no, you don't, right? I've even looked at fights where I was cornering somebody and I thought my guy won handily. Then I got to go watch the tape later and my guy got destroyed. It wasn't even close. And I won't name whose name that was, but it was fascinating and humbling too, right? That what a referee and a judge has to do and has to make those decisions and keep the boxers safe, listen to the crowd, hear all the shit in people's ears. You're on that side now. What does it feel like to be in the ring dealing with that?
It's tough. It's definitely tough. You have to make split decisions, and like with, if you got football and basketball, you don't have that screen, that replay.
Right.
And you like I said, it's a split decision. So you can't sit there, if something happens, you can't sit there and think about it. You don't have that time to think about it. You don't have time to look at your other officials and ask them, hey, what do you think? Like, let's get together on this, like they do in boxing or basketball and football. Yep. It's literally a split decision, and it's definitely rough. Like you said, hearing the crowds and hearing, oh, that was a slip, that was a knockdown, and again, like you said, they're not seeing what I'm seeing. I got the best seat in the house. Exactly. I'm in the ring. I'm literally seeing what's going on. They might say it was a low blow, and I know it was above the belt. You know what I mean? And so yeah, it's pretty stressful.
Well, and then you've got like opinions, experience, and again, I like what you say. You have the best seat in the house. I've sat and watched fights where it looks like a headbutt, right? But it's just 2 guys fighting in the pocket and heads collide.
Yeah.
And sometimes the referee feels like they need a point deduction. Other times it's incidental. Like that's the decision that you have to make right then, right? And you don't get to go back and change that, right? And so it through experience and through it doing more, I'm sure that's taught you some things.
Well, yeah, and again, going from coaching to being a member, sparring, it all comes down to knowledge of the sport, really. And to me, if you look at the definition of knowledge, it's skill, information, and facts, acquired by a person through education and experience, like you said.
It's a great way to put it.
And without that, you don't have that best part, which is the understanding of the sport. And that knowledge that I have, not saying that I'm better than anybody else, but the knowledge that I do have through USA Boxing, now the pros, and coaching and everything, it all just comes together to give me that best part, which is the love and the understanding of boxing.
Yeah, you might have just said it, but what do you think makes an amazing official?
Honestly, I was always told not being noticed, really. To not being noticed when you're in the ring, as far as a ref. Judges is something different, but a ref. Being as a ref, not being noticed. You don't want to be in there moving around too fast. You don't want to be making a lot of calls. This is about the boxers. So I think being the best ref that I could be is to not make a lot of calls, let them box it out. Obviously, you want to make the right calls when the time comes, but not to just break them every time they're in the clinch, let them box it out, and just to not be seen, not to be in there all the time, making calls, moving around so fast. You want to be calm and collective.
I like that.
And
I remember a fight that I was one of my fights that I do a little bit of showmanship, with just part of the way I fight, right?
Sure.
It's my entertainment
For sure.
and I got stopped. It's amateur boxing. It was the right call.
Right.
I'm not arguing that, but when they stopped it and warned me to stop doing that,
Absolutely.
it took me off my game. Right
Yeah.
now, I'm paying attention. Oh shit, what should I be doing?
Right.
Is this too much? Is that not too much? Later, I got to understand the rules better,
Right.
but in the moment, it definitely affected how I performed.
Sure.
I started overthinking and actually not even fighting the way I like to fight. But
Right.
not being seen, that resonates because I think if the fighters get in there, they're nervous and they're depending on their experience level, but they've got that same adrenaline. They've got to stay focused on the game plan. They've got to try to hear their coaches. They're looking, and then all of a sudden, a referee distracts that. That's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, and that goes on both sides with the fighters and the refs. The showman, the showboating and all that stuff. And, I don't want to be in there. It's not about me. I
Right.
don't want to, of course I want to look good in there, but it's not about me. And the same thing with the fighters. There's so many fighters that, like you said, I've actually said, stop all the talking.
Yep.
Stop all the, the haymakers, the winding up on your punches. And you're right. They're not sure what to do. And I've given 1 or 2 warnings, and that's what they've done in sparring. That's just their mindset of what they want to do. And when you stop that, they're just not sure what to do about it.
Yeah, and that comes back to knowledge, right? So I should have been prepared knowing that I can't do that in front of a crowd audience, and I should know that that is against the rules, right?
Sure.
So in the pros, it's different, right? Like you're taking the risk of showboating that person's going to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And the amateurs, it's not meant for that, right? And so
Absolutely.
I think that's a nice balance of as a fighter, as a coach, knowing that that's not what USA Boxing is for.
That's right.
You get in the pros, you're there to entertain, you're there to sell tickets, you're there to create rivalries and get the crowd excited. But in the amateurs, you're there to learn and develop and become whatever level fighter you want to get to.
Absolutely.
And I think that's admirable. I don't think that judges and referees get enough respect or credit for the sacrifice that's made. I think it's misunderstood a lot, especially early on in my career when I'd go to events and I would see USA Boxing officials, judges, 36 bouts. They're there 16 hours, like very little breaks.
It's the worst.
And then you're expected to be on your game the whole time and listen to people bitching and moaning and the crowd booing and like that. It's for nothing. It's a volunteer organization, right? Like that's a huge task.
Yeah.
When we started putting on our events, we decided that is not how our events are going to go. We're not going to ask anybody to do that, number one, and we want to make sure that the people that are part of our events enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
They want to be a part of it. They get something out of it, and hopefully we treat them right, and that they look forward to it every year.
Yeah, we've actually brought that up in a lot of our meetings. We told a lot of the boxing gyms to not have over 20 fighters in an event, just because of the simple thing, like you said. People get bored. You're getting off your game as far as judging, and the crowd is just it's just not the same. 30 fights, 28 bouts is. And then with that, how can you have any fights that are 2 or 3 minutes long too?
Right.
It's just a long time. So you get the guys that come up to the ring and the corner is like, this is 2 minutes, this is 3 minutes, right? It's like, no, we got 28 fights to do. Like, no, it's 1 minute.
Yeah.
And you can't. It's hard to do something in 1 minute.
It is. It's hard to box in 1 minute,
For
right?
sure.
Like a lot of our fights, luckily we've been able to get them up to a minute and a half, so at least you can box a little bit more.
Right,
but at the 1 minute round, I mean, you're asking two people to just go throw as many punches as possible and hope the judge and referee saw that you landed more.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And that's leaving a lot up to chance. And I do like the fact that it's leaning more towards smaller shows, longer bouts, and that's where boxing, I think, is more entertaining. That way.
Absolutely.
And then the truly gifted fighter has a better chance of winning in that sense.
That is correct.
That's good. So now, have you done a pro match yet?
I went to one. So the process was we went down to Arizona, me and this other guy from USA Boxing. went down to Arizona, took a 3-day training course. We learned from Jack Reese,
Wow.
which is, a veteran, 20, 30 years, I think, and Donald Sullivan. He's one of the judges that's been doing it for a long time. Took a 3-day training, and the next step was basically to shadow. But here in Utah, they don't have a lot of officials for
Right.
pros. So we're kind of fast tracking to that. So we went to one in Syracuse about a month ago, and basically just shadowed Ardian. Kuka was the referee, but we have 2 more this year so far, unless something else pops up. They're both at the Golden Spike Arena in Ogden.
Oh, great.
One is in November or April, and the other one's in November. And I'm pretty sure they're going to throw us in there
Great.
for some refereeing. Yeah.
That'll be great, man. And I watched that last one to the All Heart Promotions, and I thought they did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
I think that pro boxing in Utah needs to be elevated.
Yeah.
And I do think it comes down to sometimes staffing.
It is.
I got to learn that from working with the sports commission here that a lot of the things we're doing with Fight Con and some of the ideas that I have
Right.
are not going to be possible unless there's more people, right?
Yeah.
Like we're trying to put
We
on a
got
lot
you
of
now.
events. Yeah,
We got you now.
I'm excited to hear that. I think that it's going to help and good quality people. I know that over the years there's been a cycle of good and bad, just like in any other sport, right? There's but I think the USA Boxing has been some of the best that has been in a while. I really like what Ardian's doing. I like, we've had a pretty good relation with USA Boxing. I think that again, knowing that it's a volunteer organization, I'm hoping that our audience realizes what the sacrifices are made to, you've got a career and a family and a life, and then going and volunteering. I saw your schedule of what you're doing. That's a lot to commit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that if people can realize that and be more patient with that, and I know that when you're dealing with an adrenaline sport, even the crowd and your fighters and the coaches have to remember that too. That hey, I'm feeling amped right now, but really, these guys are doing the best that they can. So, what advice would you give to somebody that's kind of looking into boxing now that you've kind of come full spectrum from a fan to boxing to sparring, and now on the other side where you're judging? What would you say to somebody that's looking into this?
That's looking into like becoming a competitive boxer?
Yeah.
I'd say, you can't learn everything in such a short amount of time. No matter how long it is, I'm still learning. And I've been boxing for a while. I've been officiating for a while. I still learn something every time I'm at an event. Every time we go to a clinic, I'm learning more and more information. And again, knowledge is the key. You got to have that knowledge. I would say to anybody looking to compete, to just absorb as much information as you can from as many people as you can. Obviously, don't overwhelm yourself and take it seriously. I think a lot of people, they like the idea of boxing and getting in the ring. Maybe it's an ego thing, whatever it is. But it's a dangerous sport. Even though it's amateur, it's a dangerous sport. So take it serious. If you know you're going to compete, I would say get on a good diet, stick to it, get the proper rest. If you're smoking weed or drinking, stop doing that. A lot of people still smoke and drink, and they got they got a bout coming up. That's not good.
Right.
And to just stay focused. I think one of the best quotes from Mike Tyson, I know you know what it is everybody has a plan till they get punched in the face, right?
Yep.
So with that being said, I think as a new boxer coming into competition, have more than one plan. If things don't go, because you can have a plan in it, which if you think you're going to do when you get into that ring, but especially as a new boxer, it's most likely not going to work out like that. I've learned that, in one of my fights. I thought I was going to come in as a skilled boxer, not saying he wasn't skilled, but I just thought I was going to be the better boxer. And he came out guns blazing, and I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't prepared for that. I didn't prepare for that at all, and I should have. So, like I said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So have a plan B, have a plan C, have a plan D, because it just might not work out the way you plan it. And just have that mindset. You got to have a mindset of what you want to do, and just stay focused, really, and just be smart about it.
Yeah, I think that rings true for life, right? Like you get out of whatever you put into it. I think that sentiment works across every single thing in this world, and boxing is not. If anything, it shines a brighter light, because you cannot lean on somebody else when it's time to shine, and you're in the ring and you're there against an opponent. You don't have anybody to fall back on but you and the training and the time and commitment that you put into it. And that's when you're exposed for how hard or how committed you were, really.
Right.
And it's not necessarily winning and losing. Sometimes the score doesn't go your way and you gave it everything you got, and that's okay. But I do think people get in thinking that, they see it on TV, they watch it, they become fans of the sport, and I can do that. It's only a minute and a half round, like no big deal. And then they get in there and they quickly realize, oh, wow, this is nothing that I thought it was going to be. This is way harder.
And honestly, that minute and a half is probably the hardest thing you ever done, even with the whole training. If you train for years to get to know that next year you're going to compete, those 3 minutes or a minute and a half for 3 rounds is going to be the hardest thing you ever done through the whole training process. It's just the endurance, the adrenaline. You just, it's hard to prepare for that.
Well, there's nothing that really simulates it, right? Like I can get fighters ready. We do our executive fight night every year, and we get over 200 applicants that apply for this, and nobody has bigger egos than entrepreneurs, right? You're in business, you're shining, you're doing well, you've got customers and people that kiss your ass all the time, and so then they see, boxing, I can do boxing. So every time we do these shows, we put a lot into the show. So we have no problem trying to find people that want to do this. So I make them make it very clear what they're committing to. And the first week of training, I get 2 or 3 of them that were like, "Whoa, this is nothing like what I thought it would be." And then when sparring starts, that's when they're ready to quit.
Of course.
So we make sure they don't quit. And then those guys and gals that stick through it and they go and they experience those 3 rounds, those are the people that have the best testimonials of how life-changing it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
That
I hear
it's
it all
just,
the time.
well, I've heard, we had a pro athlete fight with a couple of them, and one guy, he was an endurance athlete. His name's the Iron Cowboy. Great guy, has broken world records in endurance sports. I mean, this guy is a superhuman. I can't remember what record it was. It was like 100 Ironmans in like 100 days. Some insane feat, right? He was featured on major Joe Rogans and Oprah's, all that stuff. Anyway, he fought the year that Evander Holyfield was at our show, and this guy, you can't be in better shape than him, right? Like, but boxing was a whole different sport, different level, different set of energy, and I think it was a wake up call for him. He obviously had that gear that pro athletes have. Of
course, the athleticism.
Yeah, it clicked in for him, and he performed real well. But it was humbling, I think, for him to see that somebody who's at as a peak of an athlete as you can be, as far as endurance, and still be winded after a minute of round in boxing. It was eye opening, right? Like it really is. It's nothing necessarily to do with the conditioning. It has to do with adrenaline control, right? And harnessing that fear. I think that's why I love and respect boxing so much, is that no matter what you do in life, no matter what accomplishments or accolades, like there's no feeling that's quite the same as when you're about to go on stage and you're about to go and perform and fight in front of a crowd. That's something you can't describe until you've done it.
That's true, definitely.
And now I imagine that would be a similar feeling refereeing for the first time, and being in, and that outcome has a lot to do with what your decisions are in the ring. Yeah. It's a lot of responsibility. Yeah,
it is. It's a lot of stress. It's definitely a lot of responsibility. And I think I have a very important job just protecting the boxers, especially in amateurs, making the right calls, stopping a fight. Rather stop a fight soon enough than too late.
Yeah.
I know in the last clinic they were talking about a fighter that they didn't stop the fight in time, and he got hit a couple more times. He ended up on the canvas, and then he ended up dying in the hospital.
Yeah.
And that's amateur boxing, so it's not a joke.
No.
It's definitely it's nerve-wracking for me as a ref to be in there because I know it's my responsibility to protect these fighters, and at the same time, I don't want to take away anything from them either. So I don't want to stop a fight when I shouldn't have, but I want to stop a fight when I should have.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, that's the balancing act, and I think the more you do it, the more natural it's going to feel, and as it comes to you and you see it. What's nice is you have been on all sides, right? I think you're able to see from every angle as to what it's like to be in each chair. Very few people get to have that experience. That's why I wanted to chat with you today, is because I think it is interesting to see what you can do with this sport. You know, there's an endless road for people to go down. You don't have to limit yourself. Like you don't have to be the next Muhammad Ali or even compete in boxing to make an impact in boxing.
Yeah.
I think that what this sport does is that you can be a fan, you can use it as a form of working out, you can compete at a low level, you compete at a high level, you can just spar, you can learn how to hit a speed bag. Like there's so many facets to this sport, and all of them are rewarding, right?
For sure. What I was going to say, actually, you just helped me remind it, was that you guys was the gateway for me, honestly. And I told you that. Like, Legends Boxing was the gateway for me to do everything that I'm doing now as far as refereeing, judging, and then going into the pros. I would have never, and what I'm saying is, like, you don't have to go through all that to get into refereeing and judging and stuff like that. Anybody can go on to the USA Boxing website, take the course, take the tests, and start coming to bouts, start shadowing, and get in the ring. You don't have to start from here. Right. But I did, and I would have never done it if it wasn't for here. And like I said, I went to the site, I saw that they had coaching certifications and official certificate, and I honestly wonder, not to say anything bad, but I wonder why no one was doing it. And I said, well, I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the first one, and I kind of secretly did it and wanted to see, and I passed the courses, and then I just started doing it, and it's been great. And now, we got members like Eric Acosta.
Yep.
He's very involved in the LBC now. There's another member that was at the clinic last week, Lady. I know you know her. She goes here to Orem. She's going to be the next official for judging. And she's asked me about that many, many years ago. And, I gave her the process. She just never did it. But she finally got up to it. She's been coming to events. She sees me in there. She sees my wife in there. And she's been doing it. So, it's definitely possible for anybody. Anybody can do it. It's not just going, you don't have to be a boxer, you don't have to be a member. Anybody can do it.
Well, and it's so valuable to learn it and do something, and I think people are searching for purpose all the time, right? Like, and sometimes that with unfulfilled purpose, people mask it and they do things, unhealthy things they may not be, should not be doing, and then you find an outlet, you find something where it's positive, it gives back, and it's a huge need. Yeah. Plus, it's such a cool thing to do, right? Like, such very few people in this world get to experience those type of things and be a part of something great.
Absolutely,
right?
It's so much fun.
Yeah, if you're looking for something to just be a part of and make a difference, that you do literally have an impact, and I think that whether it is wherever you're at, combat sports, boxing, from being a member to all the way up to a professional referee, there are so many different ways to approach this. So, I want to thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy. I saw your schedule. It's crazy. So I appreciate you coming down and doing this. Yeah. And if you like this episode and you like what you hear, just click like and subscribe. And we'd love to hear your comments and what your thoughts are on being a referee. And hope to see you guys at our next fight.
All right.
Thanks.
Yep. See you guys.